Hi, it's Colin Cowherd. I started The Volume to bring you some of the most authentic voices in sports. While you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks.
No deal for the Lakers, source tells ESPN. This is a tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski. They'll focus on the buyout market. I think this is an absolutely disastrous outcome for the Lakers. They need significant roster turnover. It's not just about talent anymore. As I've said on the show many times, there is something wrong with this concoction of basketball players. This group doesn't believe in what Frank is asking them to do. And that is most evident in the fact that on any given night, there's roughly a coin flip chance that they'll come out and just mail it in. Just like last night in Portland. You had LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You basically had everybody but Russell Westbrook, and you gave one of your more pitiful efforts of the season. And as I've said, there's a lot of people who tried to turn that into hey, it's not Russ's fault. Look, they lost without him. As I've said, you can't be this bad in the standings without many things going wrong, not just Russell Westbrook. However, the trade-off that happened in the Russell Westbrook trade, losing all of those talented players, is part of the reason why we're here. So I always tie those things together. Of course, Russ, or at least the Russ trade, is part of why the Lakers are so incapable of even going on the road to Portland and beating a deliberately tanking basketball team. But this group of players is not functioning anymore. And so one of my big theories is if you just swap out 5 of them, if you can get 5 completely new personalities in there, completely different basketball character human beings in the room, then you might be able to mix it up and strike, catch fire again. Because it's not always tied to the core. I mean, there was a lot of turnover last year. You swapped out Danny Green for Dennis Schroeder. You brought in Montrezl Harrell. You got rid of JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. You brought in Marc Gasol. But that group also carried on the chemistry, carried on the commitment, carried on the identity of the previous team. But this latest shakeup of the snow globe did not. And so rolling into the rest of the season with no trades, keeping everything, holding on to assets, is akin to punting the season, in my opinion. Because unless they have intel on some fantastic buyout candidates that are coming around, then it's hard for me to even functionally imagine this team reaching a ceiling that is capable of competing with the real teams in the league. LeBron candidly admitted after the Milwaukee Bucks game that he did not think that the Laker team was even capable of possibly, in the future, potentially reaching Milwaukee's level. It was one of the craziest things I've heard from him in his career, essentially admitting defeat in a lot of ways. So to literally 2 days removed from that, to make no moves, to me reeks of punting. It seems to me we all saw reports they didn't want to trade Westbrook because they wanted to wait till this summer. Because this summer they could package him with 2 first-round picks and maybe get some star or something like that in return. If that was the ideology, if the ideology was hang on all the assets for this summer, then it's the exact opposite of that thing I was just talking about with Daryl Morey. You need cracks at the table. You need pulls of the slot machine. And when you punt one of them because you're waiting for next year, you significantly hinder your odds. Because now you're going at it with a 38-year-old LeBron James, who literally just randomly playing basketball a couple weeks ago, his knee inflated with fluid because he's 37. Things are only going to trend further in that direction as LeBron ages. It's going to be harder and harder for him to stay on the court. It's going to be harder and harder for him to maintain that MVP level of play that he's shown for so much of this season. That's why I saw this season as such an opportunity. You have LeBron and Anthony Davis right now playing this well. How do you not try? At least take a crack at it. What are you risking? Yes, you lose the 2027 first. Yes, you lose THT potentially. But you increase your title odds in this season, and you give yourself a realistic chance to win with 2 of the best players in NBA history at their absolute peak. Then the last angle of this that I find so infuriating is just the Russell Westbrook attitude piece. After the show ended, against the Bucks, because there was a delayed. They didn't get to the press conferences until quite a ways after the game. And Russell Westbrook gets out there and just starts talking absolutely reckless. We have this super awkward moment out on the court where he's like petting LeBron and Anthony Davis on the head. And LeBron and Anthony Davis are looking super awkward and uncomfortable with the situation as Russ is like pointing over to Frank and being like, he didn't let me help you guys. And then he's in the press conference talking about how he's earned the right just through his reputation to be in closing lineups. And he talked about how he viewed the boos as a sign of respect. It was a truly bizarre press conference. And why was it bizarre? It's bizarre because you literally have one of the biggest egos in the league going through an identity crisis, going through the NBA's version of a midlife crisis. We had reports the other day that he literally refuses to work out with Phil Handy. That was reported by Kendrick Perkins. This guy is in a phase of denial. And that phase of denial makes him volatile. And you have now signed yourself up to have a volatile, huge ego who is currently in denial around the team the rest of the season. And it's not going to go well. There's no universe where it goes well. Because this transition for Russ is going to take time, just like it did for Melo. It could take years for him to finally understand and realize the kind of changes he has to make in order to remain a productive NBA player. You don't want to be around for those growing pains. That's why Houston sent him home. That's why Houston sent Melo home, So I'm just confused by it. Because, you would think at this point, you would need to somehow have a conversation with Russ that convinces him that his role has to be shrunken massively for this team to perform. We actually heard from Frank Vogel last night after the loss in Portland. Straight up came out and said, there are going to be nights where I go with Russ in the closing group, and there are going to be nights where I don't. That's him basically saying, regardless of what Russ said, regardless of any of the antics, I'm going to continue to bench him if he's not playing well in these if not playing well enough to earn the right to close these games. And so I'm confused at the idea of the Lakers willingly signing up to have that around the team, that type of turmoil around the team. And the weird angle to this now is if they're really going to push forward, if they're really just going to go for it with what they've got and a handful of buyout guys, then you're going to learn a lot about the mental makeup of this team over the course of the next few weeks, because it could either spiral horribly out of control, or something will rise up within them where their competitive nature will take over and some better version of this team will materialize. That doesn't just go for Russ, that goes for the whole team. LeBron and AD weren't very good last night. But maybe Russ will acknowledge the realities of the situation and undergo a change, but it doesn't seem likely. LeBron said in the post-game presser last night that the team was stuck in a fog, and they're having a hard time seeing what's on the other end of the fog. And them refusing to go through any sort of roster turnover is the equivalent of signing up for the fog. Like I said, it's like punting the season. Genuinely confused. I was prepared to come in today and talk about new Lakers. I was prepared to talk about maybe a Terrence Ross, maybe an Eric Gordon, someone that would come onto the wing here and make a huge difference because of the talent shortcomings of this roster. And instead, we're playing Golden State on Saturday with the same guys. And it's going to be the same group that's probably going to come out and have the same lackadaisical nature, the same lack of belief in what the coach is asking them to do. And they're probably going to get their butts kicked because Golden State is a really good team who's really well coached, who has an identity that they lean on. And quite frankly, they don't have that same basketball chemistry issue that the Lakers have. They fit great, even when guys are out of the lineup. So I'm disappointed, but it is what it is. Hopefully they have some intel that we're not aware of.